Hello there. Within the past 3 or 4 months, actually, well, maybe actually in the past two, I've become very interested in Doctor Who. It started when I was in Newbury Comics one day, and I was seeing all these Doctor Who related things around, and I actually started asking people, what's the big deal about this show? And when they described it to me, I got very interested. As with most things, I started doing my research on internet and renting movies from Netflix and eventually buying Doctor Who episodes when I could afford them myself. Learned about all the people who played the Doctors and the uniqueness of the show. And once I got into seeing it, I started to realize that the stories were very quirky, imaginative, and thought provoking. Things that really interest me a great deal in science fiction or with anything. Anyway, this is the first Doctor Who DVD that I purchased. It's the Day of the Daleks, starring John Pertwee as the third Doctor. Excellent six-part Doctor Who episode from 1972. And the second Doctor Who episode that I purchased is this one, The Awakening. This episode is from 1984 with Peter Davison as the fifth Doctor, and I believe his companion at the time was, his companions were Turlo and Tegan. This is a two-part episode, kind of a historical theme, I kind of like that. Now, interestingly enough, I got this one um, offline, strictly on the recommendation of Tom Baker, who stars as the Doctor in this, with the late Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, The Ark in Space. This is the second proper episode of the Tom Baker's inaugural season on the show, and it's one of his favorites, and so far it's one of my all-time favorite Doctor Who episodes that I've ever seen. If you're just getting into Doctor Who, I highly recommend The Ark in Space. It's a really good story. Um, I've been hearing a lot about Sylvester McCoy's years on the show in the late 80s, and I've always had a soft spot for the 80s because I think it's been unduly criticized as a decade culturally, and I think that there's a lot in it that redeems it. This is called Remembrance of the Daleks. I went through a period watching Doctor Who where I wanted to see all the Dalek stories, so I picked that one up. It's actually a pretty good episode. It is a little bit more bound to its time than some of the other Doctor Who's that I've seen, but it's not bad. I'm not sure what I think of Sylvester McCoy's portrayal of Doctor Who, but the Doctor Who was actually just a reference other people use to describe him because that's what he calls himself, the Doctor. Pretty good episode. Not quite as good as John Pertwee's Day of the Daleks, but not to mention that. Well, I've been going through a big flurry of getting Doctor Who episodes. This one I look forward to seeing. This is the Pyramids of Mars. The reasons I got it was huge amounts of praise, and because I rented The City of Death from Netflix and loved that. And this has one of my favorite companions so far in my Doctor Who journey, Sarah Jane Smith, in it. I decided to get this. Really look forward to seeing that. I may actually do a review later just on this particular DVD. This is another really good John Pertwee story, The Green Death. This story has kind of an ecological bent to it, talking about pollution and mutations that result therein, and also deals with the idea of, super intelligent computers going out of our control. These are themes that were later dealt with in the X-Files and more recently in other, you know, um, political kind of sci-fi oriented situations. I think Doctor Who was actually on the cutting edge of ideas doing this particular episode. I really like this one. Now, as we do I am actually right now, as I do this, in the middle of watching this. This is Earthshock with Peter Davison and his companions, Adric, um, Nissa, and Tegan. And it involves a Cyberman. I have to see how this plays out. I may give this a review a little bit later. I've heard a lot of interesting things about this episode so far. I just watched this particular series. I happen to be one of those people of the opinion that Colin Baker was probably the most underrated Doctor, and I think people still give him a hard time for no reason. This is The Trial of a Time Lord, what turned out to be his last season of the show. It's 4 separate DVDs, and I'll show them to you individually. This is the first one, called The Mysterious Planet, that comes inside the set. The second one is Mind Warp. This involves the final appearance of his companion at the time, Perry. There's Terra of the Vervoids. Another episode with a mildly ecological theme, not as heavy as The Green Death, introduces Bonnie Langford as his companion, Melanie. And there's the last one. Actually, this is one of my favorites. It's a master story, and it's called The Ultimate Foe. Geoffrey Hughes, who played Onslow in the BBC Britcom, giving up appearances, makes a cameo in this very interesting and surreal episode of Doctor Who. Now, I have been watching some of the William Hartnell episodes, the original Doctor Who. When I found this one, it kind of interested me because I saw Daleks on the cover. The Daleks are one of the most interesting and crazed science fiction adversaries I've ever seen in my life, and I'm just fascinated watching them. You know, they're not quite B-movie-ish, but there's just something captivating about them. And William Hartnell is a very interesting Doctor Who. I actually like his episodes, so this one interested me a great deal. This episode of Doctor Who is called The Face of Evil. It introduces his companion, Leela, played by Louise Jameson. It also contains one of my favorite Doctor Who quotes about the very powerful and the very stupid. Really, really good story. Like Star Trek, who apparently a lot of Doctor Who fans do not like. I get into Star Trek beforehand, thank you very much. Doctor Who faces a lot of unusual moral and philosophical dilemmas within a sci-fi format, and that's what this episode is. It's a bit cerebral, but there's a lot of great action in it. Along with episodes like The Ark in Space, I'd recommend this. And in fact, most Tom Baker episodes that I've seen, I'd recommend as Doctor Who episodes first. I haven't seen this one yet either, but I ordered all the Colin Baker episodes because of his unpopularity. I really think Colin Baker is a very, interesting Doctor, unpredictable, full of surprises. A little more attitude than the others, but I still like him. I got this, The Attack of the Cybermen. I don't know how long these will stay in print. Vengeance on Varos. I've heard about this episode, so I got that in the same sitting. It was on sale at the time. And I also picked up The Mark of the Rani. Now, actually, I heard a lot about this being one of the better for the Colin Baker years, which are often maligned. Can't wait to get into this. I rented this from Netflix, but unfortunately, I ordered 2 copies, and both of them had defects and they couldn't work. But I love what I saw so far. The 2 Doctors, with Patrick Troughton, shortly before he died, with Colin Baker. The sad part is because of BBC policy, so many of Pat Troughton's episodes, as a matter of fact, a couple whole seasons, now cease to exist and are missing from the BBC vaults. And I think that Patrick Troughton was a trooper, from what I can see. Apparently, he handled it well, went to Doctor Who conventions, spoke to fans, and acted like everything was cool, even though most of his history with Doctor Who just was eliminated in the blink of an eye. A little sad. But anyway, this episode was one that is said to be one of the worst Doctor Who's ever made, but that goes for pretty much anything Colin Baker does. And to be honest, the theme looked interesting. I haven't watched it yet, but I look forward to doing so. And I'll be doing some Doctor Who reviews myself on Amazon. One of the characters I find most interesting so far is Turlough. And I heard that he had an interesting backstory on the show and was a rather complicated companion. And this is the Black Guardian trilogy with Peter Davison. and I bought this recently. Again, it's a collection of 3 separate episodes, which I will show to you. The first is called the Modern Undead, right there. And the second disc is Terminus, which you see right here. And actually, I'm just stacking up over in the corner there. And Enlightenment is the third. And this involves the introduction of Turlo to the program. And also, I found this one. This is actually, they've reissued this as a double disc collector's edition with more bonus features. But this is the Robots of Death. It's the follow-up to The Face of Evil. Second episode to feature the Leela companion. Heard a lot of good things about that, so that's one I really like. And the 3 Doctors. I have the 2 Doctors and the 5 Doctors, actually. I watched on Netflix. I actually like all the combinations. And this also is historical. This has been reissued as a double disc as well. But this original version, either way you look at it, it contains the final appearance of William Hartnell, who played the first Doctor. He was ailing during this episode, so his screen time was limited. But, it began this kind of sparring sort of relationship, friendly sparring and roasting between John Pertwee and Patrick Troughton, which continued on into fan lore and conventions and so on and so forth. Anyway, that's my collections of the Doctor Who episodes I've purchased so far. And, I may get some more, but, I'm not made of money, so, these are just ones I want to watch over and over again. So, to all of you Whovians, whatever you call yourselves out there, enjoy your Doctor Who, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. See you next time.